reason, but at least
Okay, I'm
pictures
going to
of
pause there. I'm sorry. Someone just said something online. What did you say? I'm sorry, I missed it. We were too busy singing. Okay. Welcome everyone. But feel free to have a seat anywhere. We run out of chairs. I'm sure we can arrange that. So what a pleasure to see you. If JL is online, she said she might be. If JL is online, I want to apologize. We had a great hike around Bear Mountain yesterday, and JL, forgive me, I shouldn't single people out, but Barbara is our expert barred owl spotter because you just did wonderfully. Well, now JL's our kettle of bald eagle spotter because she saw this group of 8 bald eagles. But I jumped the gun this morning. I was looking at some of the pictures, and there was an immature, and I thought it looked a little funny. And Merlin kept saying it was a golden eagle, and I'm like, God, like it looked different. So I was like, oh, I was so excited. I posted it on Facebook, but I think it was just, it's an immature bald eagle. You can get it confused. So if JL was there and she saw the Facebook post this morning, and I was like, we saw a golden eagle. I'm sorry. I think it was an immature bull. So welcome everyone. As you might have gathered from what I just said, it's getting cold, but just still a great time to go out in nature. I mean, the colors are beautiful, wildlife is beautiful, and we're still seeing great birds as we did over the weekend prior at the grasslands. And if you're wondering, are there any more walks? Well, certainly, I'm sure you've got beautiful areas. Orange County is full of them. Yes. Yes, it is, but we'll walk fast and have little lights and and maybe look for owls. At this time of a year, especially with my class schedule, there's a minimum to how early we can start. And so we're doing one at the Heritage Trail. Okay, I'll try to help on that. So we just had a request. I think we're getting just a little background music, or background noise. So there are still a couple of hikes. We're seeing different birds, but we can talk about winter birds in upcoming presentations because we have a message tonight. And next, this coming Sunday, we're going to do our typical... I'm sorry, there's still just a little bit of background. I'm trying to mute so thank you for all of those who are muting. That's great. At the Bashikill, such a great place to look for birds and wildlife. We're going to go to the Wallkill National Wildlife Refuge the Sunday after that. That's kind of like the Liberty Loop, but it's just a bigger parking area. The Friends of the Wallkill ask us to use that parking lot instead because we'd hate for you to get there and be all excited to go for a bird walk and the sites are filled and now you're frustrated, like, I don't think I can park here, I'll get a ticket. So we don't want that. So we're the same area, but just a better parking area. So there's still stuff to do, and you can find it all on the Orange County Audubon Society website with their upcoming events. So they manage 5 great sanctuaries in Orange County for preserving some of the wildlife that you'll see here. But there's plenty of other great organizations. The Bashikill Area Association, the BKAA, helps to preserve the Bashikill, which is just a wonderful wetland. There's Mearns Bird Club. There's more Audubon divisions in Sullivan, in Ulster. We have. I'm trying to find the listing.
Oh man.
Yes. So on the listing, if you went to the Orange County Audubon website, you go to events. From there, you can go to field trips, and that will give you the information. We'd love to see. It's it's always great to see people and go hiking together. So we just had a great time. We have great times on our walks. So it's just a great bunch of birders, a great bunch of people. So if you like it getting outside, you've got people, and we'd love to have you. We've been on a mission for the past 10 weeks or so, where to cover all of the different groups of birds that you might find in Orange County, a group at a time. That way we can slowly treat everything thoroughly. And we are about at our list. We still have more bird stuff we're going to talk about, like, feeding adaptations in birds and the birds you might see more in winter. And there's more to say. But as far as today, we're talking about the ducks, and today we're talking about the raptors. We are in our last group in that survey. So we start with, all of these birds are wonderful, and we hate to play favorites, just like, if you're a parent, you hate to say, this is my favorite child, so we hate to say that. But warblers have a place near and dear to many birders' hearts. So we're going to start with them. And we didn't quite able to fit in the sparrows last time. So we'll go through those, and that will have then completed the survey of the birds we can find in our area. Okay, so warblers, these are American birds. And by American, I mean North and South America. There are warblers in the old world, but they're a different family. They're certainly pretty, as you might get from their name. Their name, warbler, just, refers to the trilling and the musical nature of their song. That's what it means. So Europe has their warblers. They're beautiful sounding, but not as pretty to look at. And so we certainly like our warblers. And there are so many kinds. So that's, they're colorful, they sound nice, and that's a challenge. So birders, here's a challenge, identifying all of these warblers. So that certainly adds to the fun. But most of them are long distance migrants. So, which means, as I'll work into the talk throughout, uh, they're more threatened than many. Like birds that are going from here to Georgia, they're having an easier time dealing with climate change and all of the other threats that, humanity is throwing at them than the birds that are wintering in Colombia or in the Caribbean or, elsewhere. And so we're worried about the warblers more so than others. In fact, the survey, and I played the song before, where in the recent decades, we've lost a quarter of North America's birds. So if you go anywhere in North America, you're seeing fewer birds than you did just a few decades ago, about a quarter. If you were to list what are the two biggest groups which have lost, New World sparrows and wood warblers, the two we're talking about today. So beautiful birds, great diversity of birds, but also we're concerned about them. So let's introduce you to these beautiful birds and how maybe you can tell the differences between them and how you might see them. All right, so that I think that uh, uh, will help you. So there are nicknames, here and there. The nickname for this one is the Halloween bird. And then upon reflection, okay, certainly you can see that. Now, with a lot of these, if I give you the impression that's what an American redstart looks like, in fairness, I'm guilty of this. Perhaps many of us are. It is unfair of me to focus on the males more than the females. All right, that's unfair. However, to kind of justify it a little, the males, they're the ones making the noise and are the brighter color. So if you've got a camera, you're just far more likely to see the orange and black one than you are the one that has like faint yellowish green spots on its tail and on its wings. And the male's making the noise, so you can train on it. So it is unfair to kind of focus on one more than the other. But the females often sitting on the nest, they want to camouflage. They don't want to be um, the bright colors. This is a great bird of spring because they like treetops. All right. And so if you're a birder, you're like, oh, I saw this many birds this week. I saw this many birds this week. And then you stop because the leaves come out. And you can hear that there's a bird up there in the canopy, but just your odds of seeing them now just get progressively worse and worse. And so as they start coming through in the spring migration, catching them before the leaves come out is great. So here's a female. All right, and so you would definitely spot the male a little more quickly than the female, but the yellow on the wings and the tail, which in the male, as you saw, more of an orange. All right, so the same color pattern, but different hues of the color. Um, there. We have, and so if you're using the Merlin app or if you learn some bird songs, then one of the things to do on a walk is like, oh, okay, I'll learn the common ones first. That's a robin. Okay, maybe I don't need to stop for every robin. Maybe I don't need to stop for every tufted titmouse, every nuthatch. But maybe when you recognize the warblers, or at least if you know the common ones, you say, ooh, that's different. I don't know that one. So pause. And what does Merlin think that is? Oh, that's a red start up in the tree. So maybe that helps. All right. So these are insect eaters. That's what the warblers mainly do. I'll give a couple of exceptions which can add on to their diet, which is why they're not with us anymore. They left because it's too cold. All right. The insects go and they go. Now, certain birds like woodpeckers and creepers know that there's still bugs in bark and in trees. And so, their way of, reaching in the crevices of bark or making holes in wood can still get bugs. But most bug-eating birds say, I have to go farther south. So our warblers have left us. Now, one thing I kind of did on purpose as I kind of traveled a little bit, I went to a national Audubon a conference up in Montreal, is I tried to be at kind of ends of these ranges this year. So I was in the Everglades in March, and I was up in Montreal in July. And if you were to see a red start in the Everglades, as I did, or up in um, Montreal, you might actually be looking at the same bird. So this is a theme I'm going to work throughout. Uh, these birds, they may be traveling, a couple thousand miles, and then have, on different continents. Right? They might be some of their year is spent on South America, or Central America, or the Caribbean, like Cuba or the Dominican Republic. While in another part of the year, they might be up in northern Canada. So if you think about how do we preserve them? Well, the Canadians have to do their part, and then so do we for any warblers which are here. But then, the Jamaicans and the Colombians and the Venezuelans have to do their part. But then everyone in between for the migration routes. And so if there's more deforestation or a severe storm and climate change, just hitting the Caribbean now, et cetera, then these birds are threatened. They need habitat in all throughout these America. So I'll stress this throughout that when we look at, oh, here's a bird I saw, in Canada, here's a bird I saw in the Everglades, it could actually be the same bird. Now, in the song, if you care to listen, I learned like no French when I was up in Canada, which was a problem driving. I was actually, I mean, Montreal's, or I'm sorry, Quebec is beautiful, but just like not understanding what the road signs say. That was freaking me out. Like warning, and I'm like, but I don't know what. But I did remember that red start in French is Paroline flamboyant. That's it. So if you wanted to see that uh, in France or up there, that's what you were to call that. And I'm sorry, I speak Spanish. I can't remember what the Spanish. They have a name in Spanish too. I've never seen them in Latin America. Okay, well, it's in there somewhere. So I even have the translations. So that's one of our warblers. One of the one, and they will stay with us all summer. Yellow warblers are also going to be with us all summer, but in a different place. All right, so that's one of the reasons it's great to go birding in different places. So if you're near water, there's trees, maybe short trees, maybe bushes. Yellow warblers you're going to see a lot of. Yellow throats you're going to see a lot of. Red stars, they prefer more of a forest, taller trees. And so, you may say, oh, we went bird watching here. We saw these birds. We went bird watching somewhere else. We saw other birds. So here's our oh, yellow. Oh, that's the song. So here are some in Canada. Actually, just I love yellow warblers. We see them fairly frequently. But we were near Montreal, and there were that's all you saw. I was just like amazed, like everywhere you were looking, yellow warblers. They're just really, really common. So these ones had to fly through Orange County, give or take, to get there. All right, because they don't winter in Canada. All right, they don't winter in Orange County. They're south of us, so you can't get to Canada unless you go through here. So they're obviously breeding there. So here's a young. You see how it doesn't look yellow yet? Juveniles often have a more of a mottled camouflage coloration so that they can blend in with their surroundings before they're good at hiding. So yellow warblers were obviously breeding in Canada. So there's a juvenile that they were ranging. But they breed here too. So along the Bashkill last summer, right by where we had volunteers with scopes helping people see bald eagles. Right next to it, there was a yellow warbler nest. So you can see that here. One of the interesting things they do is if a cowbird lays its egg in their nest, they'll build another nest on top of it, crushing the cowbird egg, but also then theirs, their first group of eggs, and then they'll lay another bunch of eggs. And apparently there have been up to like a record of 5 layers of birds nests one over the other as they try to eliminate the possibility that they end up feeding cowbird chicks and not their own. But here you can see yellow warblers breeding in our area. And right now they're south of us, right? This one is from the Caribbean, the Virgin Islands, and there might be some different racial aspects because when you find a bird population somewhere over here or whatever, like that orange, like the striping there is just a little brighter than what we typically see here. So they may have ended up somewhere other than Orange County in Canada, just with that. Like with a lot of birds, we'll see, oh, in this part of the world, the flickers, they have yellowish on their wings and tail feathers, whereas out west it's reddish. Same species, but just you can tell some differences based on where they live. And perhaps the greatest example is this one looks weird to me. All right, I thought this was a new species. All right, because look at the red. Like I'm excited. That's a warbler I've never seen before. I've never seen like the reddish on the top of the head, and a lot of them have gray on them. All right, and when you look this up, me being excited, what is it? It's a yellow warbler. I don't think that looks like a yellow warbler. But this is in the Galapagos Islands. And like I said, there can be geographic races of birds with some geographic differences. And so this is the same species of yellow warbler, but it's just a variation, a subspecies in a different place. So this is on the Galapagos. Okay. But back to Orange County. If you're near water, one of the ones you're likely to hear is a common yellowthroat. You can tell them difference by song. A lot of warblers or enthusiasts will like learn cadences. So a yellow warbler makes a cadence of sweet, 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 I'm so sweet. So if you hear that sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet, you're okay.
Mixed on what, honey?
Whereas
You're muted.
here, I'm sorry, I'm just
You are
gonna.
muted.
If anyone has something you want to ask, by all means, but other than that, I'm just going to mute anyone because there was a little background noise. The yellow throats make the sound witchety, witchety, witchety. Why? And just a theme going through all of this is that what I'm about to say sounds odd. All right. If you are out bird watching, say, and you meet someone who you find very interesting and you want to go out for dinner or bird watch again later, and you say, wait a minute, before I ask them on a bird watching date, are they a member of my species? All right. And so the answer is probably yes. All right. So let's go with yes, they're human like you. Because there's nothing else that looks like humans. If someone looks human, they are. But with warblers, as you can tell, there's a lot of little yellow birds. So come spring, who do you have sex with if you're a warbler? Because if you choose wrong, all right, then maybe you've wasted your reproductive energy that year and you don't want to do that. And so that's why as we go through, it's not just, ooh, this one has a little black mask here. Ooh, this one has a little chestnut stripe here. The females are using that to say, that's the wrong male. That's the wrong male. Ooh, that's one of mine. Okay. And then also sound can do that. All right, so the females are listening. Sweet, 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 I'm so sweet sends a message. I'm a yellow warbler male. Whereas witchetty, witchetty, witchy sends a message. I'm a yellow throat male. All right, so we think the colors are beautiful. We think the songs are beautiful, but they're functional. I mean, these birds want to mate. All right, and they're in a world full of other choices which are about their size, but the wrong choice. And this is how they are sorting themselves out. A lot of these birds are shyer. All right, and so yellow throats, unfortunately, we see them more often than we hear them. My fault. We hear them more often than we see them because, a lot of people would remember that. I'm sure more people have heard them than they've seen them. And autumn is wonderful, but autumn can be a little more confusing because that's a common yellow throat. But teenagers often are different from adults. I'm not sure if this has been your experience. I mean, they look a little different. They act a little different, these teenagers. And in birds, it's the same way. We call them juveniles. So the ones that hatch that year don't quite look the way that they're going to look the following year. So this is a juvenile female yellowthroat, and it's hard to tell because there's very few details about her. She doesn't have the yellow throat that she will next year. So if you're going to do bird watching, autumn is tougher than spring. All right, so spring, the males are in brighter colors, they're making all their noise. And in the autumn, you've got these juveniles that don't quite look like the adults do. But yellow throats, both males and females have a yellow throat. The males also have that dark mask. And then if you want clues that kind of help you, you're going to be near water when you see them. All right, so they love wetland habitats, while other warblers you're going to see, just, deeper forests, etc. So, sometimes when you go birding, you think, oh, I'm going to the Bashik Hills where this is by the water. Here are the birds I'm expecting to see were here. So maybe that kind of helps prepare you along the way. Okay. Now, I went to Cape May about a month ago, and yellowthroats are there. All right, and so lots of birds are, because as I have in one of these videos, Cape May is the word that everyone uses is funnel, and I hate to be so cliche, but it's true, so I'm just going to use the word that everyone uses. If you're in the eastern Great Lakes and you want to go south, just between terrain and mountains and winds coming across the country, you're probably going to end up going this way. If you're in Maine and Newfoundland, etc., a lot of songbirds, they don't like flying over the open ocean, so they're going to hug the shore as best they can. So in other words, birds all over here, everyone's kind of going here. And then Cape May is the very tip of New Jersey, right, before you hit ocean. And so, if you're going to do this big flight over ocean, you're probably going to want to rest up a little for your journey, eat a lot here. So this is just a great place to go birding. I mean, you can have good days and bad days, but in Cape May, I mean, especially during fall, I mean, even bad days are really darn good. So I have a video coming up of just all the warblers I saw in the same group over this space of about, I think it was like 10 minutes or so. And for a lot of people like me, I'm not, too proud to say this, but I'm like, wow, like I could do better in an hour in Cape May as far as warblers I've seen than I did all summer. Right? It's just like it's just that good. All right. And so here, and once again, just it's always a challenge, as I said before, you're like, oh, that's the male redstart. Oh, that's the female. I might not have known her. That's the female. Or I know the male yellowthroat with the bright mask, but the female is a little harder to see without the mask. She still has a yellow throat. All right, as you can see, but she doesn't have. We move on. Okay. As you can see, birders aren't extremely, creative. These are called black and white warblers because they are black and white, right? They almost act like nuthatches because they love to go up and down trees, finding bugs in the crevices of bark, right? So once again, if you're in an area with like big trees, especially big trees with rough bark, you might see more of these. So they're distinctive. And every now, like I see them during the summer. I was in Cape May, like I said, a month ago, and there was just like a whole flock of them going through. So all of these, this is like if I were just photographing Orange County, this I don't know, like 3 years worth of good pictures of black and white warblers, but they were all just hanging out, coming south. So it was easy to get pictures of those. But you see how they're hugging trees? Most warblers don't quite do that. So by the behavior, sometimes you can help single some of them out. Okay. We'll just zip around. So chestnut-sided warblers, they just have a lot going on. Now here's the male. All right. And notice, so it's got yellow there, yellow on the wings, that chestnut side. So a lot of warblers just fit a whole lot of color into like a little bird, like just little patterns, little stripes. And so you have to admire them for that. Females look similar. And so once again, females are often trying to be a little bit more muted than the males are. So this is a female, but still that's pretty bright. All right, so female chestnut-sided warblers, even though they're not quite as bright as the males, nevertheless, they're bright as far as warblers go in general. Usually females don't have quite that much color on them. You can see why they're called the chestnut-sided, because of that chestnut stripe. Also, some different, the yellow, the facial pattern, etc. This one, was in the northern Catskills, but at some point, once again, had to travel through Orange County. So, you know, even if you see here's a bird of, you know, Maine, or here's a bird of Canada or northern New York, it might be an Orange County bird too, or at least you see it during spring. You could have seen that bird in Orange County in spring, but it just chose to lay its eggs a little north of us. All right, so Orange County was important along its journey. This is a beautiful bird, but often lets me photograph the branch right in front or behind it, and almost never like a good picture of this one, so I apologize. It's called the black-throated blue, so it's got a slate gray back and a black throat. All right, so it, you know, they all make different cadences. Zwing, zwing, zwing is the way this one sounds. And so, you know, it's exhausting to try to learn all your vocalizations, but then like if you have a favorite, like I like this bird, and so just it has a distinctive sound, and so just, you know, you can learn those, and just, you know, when you hear that in the woods, you're like, ooh, you know, that's one of my favorites, you know, and stop and see black-throated blues. Okay. Not to be confused with another species, the black-throated green. Right? So there's a lot of these species. One of the reasons there are so many species is that separation of habitat, like raccoons. There's one species of raccoon that's everywhere. Why? Because they're generalists. They just do everything. They eat everything. And so, you know, there's only one species because they can be everywhere. But if you've got this one living in the wetlands, and these that like coniferous forest, and these which like deciduous forest, and these which, you know, the black and whites, you know, feed in tree bark, etc., now you can have them in the same area and they're not quite competing as much. And so the fact that they're so specialized to specific lifestyles, you know, means that you're going to have more species of them. So black-throated greens, if you wanted to see them, go to where the pine trees are. You're going to see them more in a coniferous forest than you are here, you know, kind of an olive on their head, but black in their throat. All right, so bright black throat here. Now, like I said, I did get a chance to go up north, and so notice the spruce trees there. All right, so, you know, we don't have them here, but you start going into the Adirondacks, you start going into Canada. Now you get these, you know, on these mountains, these big stands of a coniferous forest, and you say, aha, all right, I saw them in spring, but they didn't really stay. This is where they were going to lay their eggs, but then they'll be back through again come come autumn as they go by. All right. Another kind called prairie warblers have like pretty bright black stripes on their sides, and you know, some are a little bit more obvious when they call. Like oven birds, you can hear them; they're in the woods somewhere, but seeing one is hard. You know, but this one's a really good one as far as, you know, the male's going to think, I'm going to sit on the top of a tree on a dead branch if possible, and make a voice sound as loud as I can. And so now you might be more likely to hear them. Now, prairie warblers are typically going to the Caribbean, to Central America, Mexico, or northern South America. These are from the Everglades, and that's kind of interesting. These ones may stay there all year round. So they're prairie warblers, just like the previous one, but they're not having sex, because if some of them are breeding in Florida, all right, and kind of staying there, while other ones are either, you know, in Orange County and above, or then they're going to the northern South America and the Caribbean. Even though they're the same species, the odds of, you know, one of these having you know, a partner that's in the other group is now smaller. So we see speciation happening. So these are subspecies that are starting to go their separate ways. We still consider them the same species, but they're going to just start mating less and less. And like the ones you saw in the Galapagos, we'll probably just start seeing more and more color differences between them as we go. So there are differences. A lot of them are so brightly colored. This one, not as much. So some are browner, these warblers. This one's called the ovenbird. And I'm sure you've heard them in the woods, especially in summer. You'll hear teacher, teacher, teach really loud, but they're shy, all right? So they don't come out for you to see them well. So, you know, you don't have to learn all of the bird songs, but there are some birds, especially if they're shy, you're going to hear them. You know, if you're just counting the ones that you see, there's a bunch of birds that probably won't be on your list as much. So teacher, teacher, teach is the ovenbird here. Okay. And I saw some ovenbird in Cape May. So this is one on the ground in Cape May. But it's going all the way down to Florida. So here's one I saw in the Everglades. And so, you know, this is 1,300 miles apart. You know, every now and then I'll go for a long hike, you know, like a mile and a half or something. You know, just the idea of flying 1,300 miles or 1,600 miles. You know, these birds are great travelers. Some are international travelers. So, you know, a great deal of respect for them. Okay. So we have one of the more common birds up north is the yellow-rumped warbler, also known as the butterbutt. All right, so that's just a nickname. They're called butterbutts, and both males and females have that, and they'll have it in autumn. So even though the rest of their coloration can change, that is an obvious feature. So in spring, notice they come in kind of early. So notice the leaves aren't quite out yet. So that's a good chance to see them, right? Because they're not hiding in the leaves. They have the slate gray coloration, bright black facial mask, bright yellow here. The females aren't quite as obvious, but this is a sign of spring. You know, in early spring, a lot of yellow-rumped warblers are coming through. And if you said, oh, you know, I missed my warblers over winter, you know, here we are in spring, the warblers are back. So it's nice to have happy thoughts about that. Come autumn, it's a little tougher because they're not going to look like that as much. So here are the spring ones. In autumn, you can still see the bright yellow butts, all right, but they're going to, you know, blend in a little bit. You know, I have better ones. All right, so here's one in autumn. See how brown it looks? So if it didn't part its wings to show the yellow there, that might not stick out as much. All right. So not only are the adults duller, then you've got the juveniles, which are like a grayish brown, and even look different. They've got stripes on them that the adults won't have. So you might not even recognize that as a warbler, all right, because of that. So you might get frustrated unless, you know, until you see that yellow on their rump. So that's easy. All right, I made a song about it. Oh, no, 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 no. That's the song. That's not the song. Wait, the song. So the song is, you're like, what am I looking at? I don't know. And then all of a sudden you see it part its wings a little bit and you see the bright yellow spot and you're like, aha, right? I didn't even think warbler because I'm looking for little yellow birds here. So autumn is a little more challenging for bird watching. But, you know, here we have, you know, you can still see some faint yellow here. One of the joys about them is I haven't seen one in November yet, but it was the last week of October I was still seeing them, which is late. And if you ask, why am I seeing them that late? Unlike most warblers, they can actually eat some plant material. So there's berries that are hard to eat, like poison ivy berries, hard to eat, all right? But some birds have adapted their digestive tracts where they can. And so here this is poison ivy right there. And there you see the berries. Not many birds eat that, but these warblers can, which mean that a lot of the other warblers, they're already south because the bugs are gone. They had to travel in August and early September while the bugs were still out. But these can be late. And so there are two warblers, which are the first warblers you're going to see in the spring, and then the last warblers that you will see in the autumn. The other one of that is the palm warbler. And so just, it happens, you know, people get cooped up in you know, side and you miss winter, and then spring comes in and you're like, ah, I'm going to start seeing all my spring birds. And if you're looking for warblers, the two first ones you look for are the palm warblers and the yellow-rumped warblers. Palm warblers act a little different, all right? They spend a lot of time on the ground, all right? That's a little unusual for warblers. So once again, it's not just the colors, it's the behavior. All right, you see a yellowish bird on the ground in early spring, you went out expecting to see palm warblers do that. You know, you're going out in early spring, you're like, ooh, maybe I'll see a palm warbler. If so, they'll be acting like this. So when you see that, you'll recognize it. They don't stay. Yellow rump warblers don't stay. They're just passing through. They go up to Canada, northern, like New York, they breed there, and then they'll come back through in the autumn. So every time of year, we'll show you different birds when you bird watch. And spring and fall, we'll show you Canada's birds, which just pass through. All right, so if you go out in summer, you won't see a yellow rump, you won't see a palm. If you go out in winter, you won't. It's just during migration routes as they go to and from where they spend their summers and when they spend their winters. So a lot of people will say, aha, it's spring. I've seen a palm warbler. And I saw a palm warbler on the Delaware this year. It was the end of March. So like when does spring start? The end of March for an insect-eating bird. That's pretty early, but one of your first warblers and one of your last warblers. Right. So at the Shwangung grasslands, maybe about a month ago, a little before when we took our walk there, I saw some palm warblers there. Right. So just another trick as you go out identifying them. In a migration, there's a big difference between the beginning of the migration and the end of the migration. So you say, oh, palms and yellow rump, they'll be early, one of my first birds I see, and then they'll also be late, one of the last ones. And so that should help a little bit. Then there are more, but as we go through here, many of these are beautiful, but they're not our birds. All right, they don't stay here and breed, and so these would be the ones that the birders are going out and trying to see, the less common ones, which are just passing through. Like this is a northern parula, a lot of color going on there, especially in the males. So here's along the Delaware, I think last summer. Here's in Cape May a month ago. They have a mossy green back. So there's a bunch, and we do want to get to the sparrows. I'll just point out rather than every single warbler, here's how you would tell, because a lot of these would be less common to see. But as you can see, there's a lot of different color patterns going on parula warblers. They are certainly neat birds. Another sparrow-like looking bird is a water thrush that makes beautiful songs. Here's a magnolia warbler from Goshen, late in spring. They look, I'm sorry, late in autumn. They look much brighter in spring. Once again, autumn, they don't quite, the males don't have all the bright colors that they're going to have later. And especially immature males look like females at this point, like they have a grayish head. They don't have the black stripes that they will have later. There are some bluish warblers. The cerulean warbler is one of those, not as common to see, right? And as you might imagine, just little birds that are in the bushes and branches hopping around looking for insects. It's hard to get good pictures. It's hard to focus binoculars. And so when I talk about sparrows in just a second, why would you go out looking for sparrows in winter? A whole lot of reasons. One is if you're a beginner bird watcher, this is where you practice your binocular skills so that when the spring migration starts, you're good at it. All right, because otherwise, all of a sudden, there's a cute little bird. Oh, and there's a cute little bird, and there's the branches, and then et cetera. So they are difficult. So this warbler's kind of got a funny name. It's called the Cape May warbler. But for like a long time, I think this is the story if I understand it correctly. For a century, they were first described in Cape May. Like there was a killed specimen in the late 1800s that had been killed in Cape May. So they identified it and said, aha, this is the Cape May warbler. I think 100 years went by before another one was seen in Cape May. And so people who lived in Cape May, they're like, oh, like these Cape May warblers. I have never in my life seen a Cape May warbler in Cape May. But they're back now. So their range is shifting a little bit. So here are Cape May warblers from Cape May. And that's a juvenile here. We see some brighter colors here. Now, as I just kind of wind up on the warblers, so once again, you're in Cape May, and all of a sudden you're looking and you're like, oh, so here's, at some point I start putting up their names. So here's one. Oh, and there's another in the same group. So there's a flock going by, but it's a mixed species flock. This is a black-throated green, right? And you're like, oh, wait, there's a female redstart, right, in the same flock, right? Oh, here's a parula coming. All right. in the same flock, and I'll just keep going. And so, here's like 6 different species. I'm happy if in a month I saw 6 different species of warbler, and here I just saw them in 5 minutes, all traveling together. But I'm angry now too, because they're like, oh, stay, 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 and they're migrating, they're going south. So I just happened to catch them here. The next day, you go to this one tree, and there's a whole bunch of species feeding in the same area. So Cape May is really something special for birding. And so, it's about 3 hours. And so, you could say like, ooh, let's book a fancy trip somewhere, which is fine. But, Cape May, come in spring or autumn migration, not that far, and cheap enough to go. So, that would be a very rewarding birding trip if you got a chance to go. As I said, we worry about them because warbler numbers are not only are all bird numbers dropping, warblers dropping a little faster. And like so the fact that they travel so much distance is an issue. Because let's say we maintain our habitat, but Colombia doesn't. We're vice versa. If Colombia doesn't, we don't. All right. They need both. All right. And they need all the areas in between. So Orange County was vital for Canada's warblers. If we develop and drain our wetlands, etc., then Canada has fewer birds, right? So that's a problem, and it's a problem with climate change, because as it gets warmer, a migrating bird flying 2,000 miles, that's a lot of energy. So they need to get this just right. And not only does it take a lot of energy to migrate, once they land, this is when you start laying eggs. That takes a lot of energy. So like, come spring, birds need energy like nobody's business. So they have timed it so that as I fly north, that's when the leaves have just started coming out. So the bugs start coming out, and I eat all the bugs that are coming out, and that fuels me. But then climate shifts, and now it gets warmer earlier, or there's a weird year or something. And now all of a sudden the Georgia birds know that. Birds that are wintering in Georgia know it's a warmer winter, so they could start earlier. But if you're in Colombia, you don't know that the eastern US has had a mild winter, that the bugs are going to come out 2 weeks earlier than they otherwise do. So you come up and you say, I desperately need food to continue my migration and to defend the territory and lay all these eggs, and you've missed the insects at their peak. All right. And so, all of these are just really challenging these birds, in addition to the loss of habitat. So we worry about warblers. So these are, certainly the among the favorites of birders. And then, so I have this great idea that I've yet to make really feasible, that I can write really good songs with the same cadence that the bird songs are. And I've managed the writing songs with the same cadence. I have yet to as I listen to it, I play back, I'm like, I haven't managed a really good song to the cadence, so we'll kill that one. But I thought it was that would be a way that you could learn bird songs. Like, oh, I know this song, it has the same cadence. So sparrows. Let's say a few words about those. There's a lot. Once again, because they can, partition their habitats, feed a little bit differently. Then you get to you get all of these different species, but now you have the issue, like if you're a sparrow, who do you have sex with? All right, and so that's where all of these faint, differences in coloration or the song that makes a difference. So if you see a sparrow and you'd like to go further, good question to ask at first is, are there stripes on the chest? All right, because that will then kind of split them into 2 groups. If you do see stripes on the chest, the most likely one is a song sparrow in this area. Song sparrows also will have a kind of darker sideburns, and typically also, not always, but typically a dark spot on their chest. All right, so if you see stripes on the chest, probably a song sparrow, and there's a couple of ways of making sure. They sing all day, and they sing all throughout the year. Right? The males just sing and sing and sing, and maybe I shouldn't get as personally attached or involved with these, but I'm kind of a musician. It's just the idea that they just never stop singing, and heck, they'll even leave their families just to go out and sing more. I'm just not great, but I get it a little, maybe I do. So they're called song sparrows just because they never stop singing. Humans can mess them up a little bit, because if we have streetlights, they never stop singing, so they'll sing at dusk. And if you have streetlights, they might sing much of the night. which, you know, if you're a bird, you only have so much energy, you know, singing 24 hours a day, you know, it's going to take a toll on that. So they can sing, they can make their songs more than 2,000 times a day, which is a lot for a bird. Okay. So I'm just going to start going through, you know, some sparrows. Swamp sparrows, pretty to look at. So, I mean, every bird is an acquired taste. These are tougher though, because you like almost have to go out through like process of elimination. Like it's not this one, it's not this one, it's this one. They do have a little white on their throat, but it's not bright. They do have a little reddish up here, but it's typically not right. So, you know, you have to go through it. But their name, swamp sparrow, you only hear them in swamps. You hear them much more likely than you see them. So once again, one of the reasons there's so many species is because they've specialized. This one in swamps, you're not going to see it elsewhere. And because they're shy, like, all right, maybe that's not, you know, the bird where you say, I saw the most amazing bird, but this is a harder one to see. All right, so if you're among birders, you know, like if you see a yellow warbler, I mean, that's great, but they're a little easier to see. If you saw swamp sparrow, a little harder. So, you know, not as pretty as a yellow warbler. All right, but if, you know, like a feather in your cap as far as I saw an unusual bird, a swamp sparrow may be higher on your list. Just hitting some more. Field sparrows. This is a summer sparrow for us. We're not going to really see it in the colder weather. All right. Pink bill. All right. So, you know, that really sort of like, if you say like, wow, like once you know to look, it's like pink bill. And notice no stripes on the chest. So no stripes on the chest, pink bill. And you're, okay. So you already know it's something new. And a lot of people just, you know, it's got like an auburn color. It just looks cuter than a lot of the other sparrows, perhaps. Maybe this white eye ring kind of helps with that. But, you know, just the nose streaks on the breast kind of strikes you. The pink bill certainly can. Chipping sparrows can have a white eye stripe during mating season and a redder than normal cap. All right, so once you said, okay, no stripes on the breast, there, but like I see a white eye stripe, pretty bright, the black line offsets that. And here I can see a little reddish. Okay, so that's a little bit different. This one I like seeing a lot. And actually about a month ago, there were some right behind this building here. So if you look at that, one of the things that might strike you is stripes on the breast. Or you might say, all right, song sparrow probably. But if you look at the head, you say, wait, do song sparrows have that much yellow on their head? That's a savanna sparrow. We will probably most likely only see them during migration times. And certain habitats are great for them. So the Shuanggang grasslands, we did a hike there. Unfortunately, we didn't see them that a day. But we had been seeing them in a bunch of places the month prior. So the Bashigal had them here behind the rally building. We had them at the Wallkill. They had them here. So here's a sparrow. Once again, stripes on the breast. I'm going to put it in this half of the family tree rather than the other half. The yellow on the head kind of gives this away. Ooh, what's going on there? Look at the white stripes on the head. All right, so that's unusual. All right, so this is what's called a white crowned sparrow. Right, so the males have the white on the top of their head and a pinkish bill. The females, it'll be more brown, as you can see here. But notice the snow. So this is a great example of you will always see sparrows in Orange County. But which sparrows you see depends on the time of the year. So the field sparrow with the pink bill, that's a summer sparrow. Chipping sparrow, pretty much a summer sparrow. There's exceptions to a lot of what I say, especially Orange County is often right at the edge of like breeding grounds where it's not likely to see something in winter, but possible. So you never want to say never with birds. But these are typically going to be breeding north of us. So you know how birds go south in winter? Well, Orange County is south of Canada and south of the Great Lakes. And so when birds go south, that means some of them come here. So Orange County is Florida, for a lot of birds, including white-crowned sparrows. We're going to do for Audubon a Christmas bird count here, and that's one of the ones we're really looking for is the white-crowned sparrow because they're special birds to see. But winter is going to be the time to see them. So when we do our Christmas bird counts, we hope to see them there. So you can see this one here. All right, so they're neat. And once again, so this is at the Liberty Loop. And notice the snow that would be, typical of what you would see. Now I talked about the white-crowned sparrow. So then it obviously then makes sense to talk about the white-throated sparrow. So this bird has a lot going on. White throat. Does have a little white on the head, but the nice yellow spot there also helps. Notice the unstreaked breast. So as you look at them, for a lot of people, all the sparrows look alike to me, right? But when you look closely, you're like, okay, no, like I can, you get a good look at them. If I took the time, I could see some differences. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of an aside to talk about something strange, and then we'll get back to a couple remaining sparrows and tie up. So here I'm looking at some have more of a white stripe on the head, while some have a tan stripe on the head. And if you're a birder, you're already thinking, oh, I'll betcha those are the males and those are the females. And the answer is no. Something really weird is going on here. So these sparrows are sometimes asked, are they the bird with 4 genders? Not quite, but kind of. So you'll see where I'm going. So some males have a white stripe. Some females have a white stripe. Some males have a tan stripe. Some females have a tan stripe. And in a population, see these 4 different kinds? The populations are almost always about 25% each of these groups. So if you ask, what's going on here? Right? Well, so it is common for like birds to have different morphs. All right, so here's screech owls. Like you can have a gray phase and a tan phase, right, in screech owls here. But what's going on here is a little bit different. And so we're going to have to talk about like mating and what's good parenting. And just in spring, this is a little more awkward because I think all of us, I'm sure all of us have ideas of how one should parent, how one should be a partner, like what one shouldn't do. And once you start talking about like these birds mate for life, these ones don't, these ones, do this with their kids, these ones, like, I know it's easy to take it personally, like, no, this bird's doing it right, kind of like me. So don't, like, this is, a little different, so don't do that. So it turns out that the gene that determines whether you have a white stripe or a tan stripe has now started to assort itself with other genes that don't just affect color, they affect behavior. To the fact that if you get the gene for a tan stripe, you're getting genes which will affect your behavior along with it. They're traveling together. They're located near each other on the chromosome. If you're getting the gene for a white stripe, you're getting genes that travel together. So there's this one linkage group which has 1,000 genes in it that typically travel together. And so you're getting not just this, you're getting other genes as well. And these genes are affecting your choice of mate. So who do you find attractive? Well, its genes are in that group. How aggressive are you? Genes are in this group. How do you care for your kids? Same deal. So when you get a white or a tan stripe, there's a package that's going along with that that's determining a lot more about you than just your color. There's an inversion in this area which suppresses crossing over. What that means is if you were to look at the order of the genes, can you see here that we have blue, I'm sorry, where's my inversion? I'm sorry, my bad. That the order of the genes, so here, if there's a crossing over, I'm sorry, I think I have that coming up in a second. If one part of the chromosome is upside down compared to the other one, now if chromosomes start switching genes, this very often means that the hybrid offspring die, All right, that happens in humans too. Like if a couple goes to a fertility clinic and say, we keep having miscarriages, what's happening? Very often one of the individuals has a little piece of the chromosome that's upside down, and genetically, I'd be happy to go into that. But here now, it's suppressing crossing over, because if the switching occurs, the offspring likely to die. So if you get the white gene, you're likely to get all these traits with it. Tan gene, same thing. So what does that mean? That means that the ones with the white stripe, they tend to be more aggressive, just meaner. Well, and they're better at defending territories. But so here I'm just talking about crossing over. But white striped males and white striped females, they don't get along. Perhaps, and here's where I hope, I'm going to just start talking about behaviors, and no one take this to talk about anything other than this. They're probably just too aggressive to get along with each other, right? So that almost never happens. They're the same species, but a white striped male and a white striped female almost never get together, all right? Tan striped individuals almost never get together. So when you look at a pair in nature, it's a white striped individual, they could be male or female. With a tan striped individual, they could be male or female. So what's going on behaviorally? Well, interestingly, if, let's say, this is the male and this is the female, this one's going to be aggressive. It's going to defend the territory. It's going to, like, if something starts coming into the nesting area, chase it off, etc. Will it care for the young? No, that's her job. All right. So here, the female is not going to be aggressive and pretty much going to do all of the childcare, but the male is going to be guarding the area. All right. Here, if this is the white striped female, that's a tan striped male, they're probably both equally aggressive and equally nurturing. So they're not as defensive of the area, but each does a little, all right? Both male and female will care for the young. So here, in the same species, there's this setup where the young are defended and the young are cared for. But in this scenario, all right, the male is doing all of the defending, the female is doing all of the caring, whereas in this scenario, they're both sharing. And the fact that almost never do white striped males and white striped females produce offspring. And, oh, okay, fix the camera? Okay, sorry. I can't see my face either. I'm here somewhere, I'm sure. Oh. Thank you for letting me know. So that's just a unique setup, and I don't know that there's any other setup like that in birds. So here's just another reason. I teach biology, so sparrows. There's things to like about sparrows, but when you study a group in nature, all of a sudden you come across something that's unique. It's not just a sparrow thing; it's a gender thing. Like, how are these birds doing the traits that go along with gender, which then ensure offspring? And all of a sudden, like, this species does this, and then you study other groups, this species does this, and you never know what interesting things might pop up. Okay. Just a couple more sparrows, then I'll wrap up. The American tree sparrow. Notice the absence of leaves. This is another winter sparrow. So did we have them in summer? We didn't, because look how far north they are. That's where they're laying their eggs, up here. But this is Florida for them. Just like some of our birds went to here and to there, all right? Some of Canada birds came to here. So you're going to see sparrows all year long, but tree sparrows, that's one of the ones which we will see in winter. A little bit more reddish, a little bit of a grayish head. They are easy to confuse with the chipping sparrows, but chipping sparrows have probably mostly gone south by this point. One weird thing is they have a bicolor bill. If you notice, the top is dark, the bottom is yellower, and no stripes on the breast, although they might have a faint black spot. All right. So once again, if you're thinking, oh, winter sparrows, oh, it's winter, why would I go bird watching? You might say, oh, wait, tree sparrows, this is the time to see them. White crowned sparrows, they're a rarer sparrow. This is the time to see them. White-throated sparrows, I can see them throughout the year, but this is a better time than most. And then the last one is a sparrow that a lot of people don't think is a sparrow, the dark-eyed junco. And so if someone were to say, oh, I have trouble identifying my sparrows, well, no, you don't. This one is easy. So this one has a grayish body and a light bill, and mostly a winter sparrow. So you don't want to say ever, this one you'll never see at this time of year, because there's some overlap, as you can see, between breeding and non-breeding in this area. But we have an awful lot of juncos in our area in winter. Okay. Oh, okay, so someone is, oh, Marty, thank you so very much. Many birds eat poison ivy fruits. Thank you for correcting me. And a great paper on speciation by MacArthur on breeding warblers, if anyone is interested. Thank you, are a great biologist and a great former professor at Orange County, Marty Borko, and one of the great early ones to help preserve the Pashical wetlands. So Marty, thank you so very much for sharing. Here. So I had a video to just end with then, and I think there was a song where if you go out bird watching in winter, there are days where, I mean, it is a little bleak. I mean, it's always nice to get outside. Like all of nature is beautiful here, but here we are by the Liberty Loop. Just not as many birds as I see other times of year. However, not only did I see sparrows, I saw 4 different kinds. All right, and you can see more than that. So I just decided, I made a little song about it. But if you don't know your sparrows, just don't take this the wrong way. But on a day like that, maybe you don't have anything else to see. So like, hey, why not start learning sparrows now? But also, there are sparrows that you're only going to see in winter. All right, and so just to get you an idea of the diversity of species, that some will breed in Orange County over summer, but some are breeding near Hudson Bay. All right, and so when winter comes, a lot of people say like, "Oh, I'm done my birding," but some may say like, "Oh, here are the birds that I'm going to see in winter," and we'll be talking about that in upcoming weeks. Okay, so we live in, I know I'm insulting some parts of the world, so I apologize. You go out west and it's beautiful. You go to the Virgin Islands and they're beautiful. But after a while, it is a little boring because you've seen most of the birds in a very short period of time. You go to Iceland, it's beautiful, same thing. Orange County is really rich in our bird diversity. We live in a very special area. And so we thought, we'd give a series of talks over 15 weeks looking at birds from all of these angles. And we have just wrapped up our groups of birds. The next couple of weeks, we're going to look at birds in food chains and look at, adaptations that, aquatic birds have versus insect-eating, seed-eating birds have. We'll talk about birds of spring and summer, birds of fall and winter. We'll end with environmental problems facing birds. So we'll continue to look at birds from diverse angles. One last comment is, if anyone would like to have more, whether you'd like for the Bashical Area Association or the Orange County Audubon Society to be put on their mailing list, feel free to write your email address on the sheet there. Also, just if anyone is interested, the Audubon Society, the calendars have just come in. The Bashical calendars are, I think, a week away. If anyone says like, oh, I'd like one, or this would make a perfect gift, feel free to take one. All that we ask is if you're a member of Audubon or with Bashical coming in, then just whatever donation you would like to give is great. The Audubon calendars, the production was $8, the production cost, but whatever you would like to give, it whatever you can give, take a calendar, that's great. If you're not a member, there's a membership form there, so fill out a membership and then your calendar will be free. So if you're of interest, help yourselves. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming. If anyone has any questions, feel free to shout them out. Otherwise, I hope you can get out with the beautiful weather that we're still experiencing and see a lot of these great birds. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. One more thing in the chat and then I'll get, okay. Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Let me copy that and I will mail it to myself and you'll be on the list as of tomorrow. And once again, if you're on the Audubon list, we have an online newsletter that I put together each month. And so you would get that. So if anyone said, oh, I'd love to see pictures of the birds that we're seeing in different times of year, that would be one of the things. So let me just kind of, I'm going to copy this before this goes away and send it to myself. So I'll get it here. Yes, and I'm sorry, you had a question.
About how much do they fly away? They get caught up in currents or something?
They can, it varies, big birds, small birds, the raptors, like if you've got good thermals, they can rise very high and then, not even flap their wings for, miles and miles and miles. Also, if there's good feeding, foraging areas on the ground, they might go a short distance feed, go a short distance feed. Then they hit Cape May, then they might do a long stretch over water before they land, in southern Florida, or even now like more in the Caribbean. So between all of the species and some of those variations, I'm sorry, it would vary a lot. And I don't have a good set of numbers to rattle off. Yeah. No, I went to Assateague in college, which is next door. So yeah.
Thank you. I put my
Well,
email in the
thank you. Thank
chat to
you.
you to sign up for the newsletter.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you to repeat it. I'm going to turn up the volume. I heard you, but just barely.
I put my email address in the private chat
Oh, okay.
to sign up.
Oh,
for
okay.
the
Thank you.
newsletter.
Great, great. I'll get that one too. Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks. See you next week.
See you next week. Marty, thank you so very much. Anybody else have any questions here?
Glad to be here, Walter.
Marty, I'm sorry I missed you. I'm just running around like an idiot doing walks for Audubon and everyone else.
Yeah,
For a
you're
while,
very
Tom
busy.
was
I
saying
saw
it was
the
Friday, and I
calendars
was
in.
like, oh, I can make Friday, but
I saw the calendar in Frank's office there. Looks good.
no.
Great photography. Always do an outstanding job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
having you at the faculty taking over. That's wonderful. And what you do to support Orange County Audubon and the Bashkill Association. You're a total asset to the community.
Well,
Most
thank you. You know
appreciated.
what? But it occurred to me, reflecting on John Tramontano is, as I'm sure you remember, I have always loved birds, but I don't think I was quite the birder when I started. And between you and John and with Joe Zarobchek, I had a lot of great, mentors and people to inspire. So thanks for all that you do.
Yeah, well, I think we did a good job with Marie in campus with his ashes and at the Bashkill. We had a good turnout, and I think Marie was happy with what occurred.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Take care, Marty. Best wishes to everybody. Here, let me just. Hey, Nancy, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm doing